Have you ever walked into a crowded room and still felt completely alone? Not because nobody noticed you, because nothing around you felt real. People laughed, people smiled, people talked, but something inside you quietly whispered, none of this matters. Most people think you're becoming antisocial. Psychology suggests something much darker. Your brain has simply stopped chasing noise and started searching for meaning. And by the end of this video, you may discover that your loneliness was never your weakness. It was the first sign that your mind had already changed. One day, something strange begins to happen. The conversations that once entertained you suddenly feel empty, not because you've changed overnight, but because your mind has started searching for something more meaningful. While everyone else is asking, "What happened today?" your mind quietly asks, "Why did it happen?" That single question separates deep thinkers from everyone else. Most people chase entertainment. A deep thinker chases understanding. That's why crowded rooms can feel lonely, even when you're surrounded by people. And that's the moment your world quietly becomes smaller. Not because people disappear, but because your mind refuses to settle for conversations that never go beyond the surface. Here's what most people never realize. A deep thinker doesn't just hear words. They notice the pause before the words, the hesitation, the change in someone's voice, the expression that disappears in less than a second. While everyone else listens to the conversation, your brain quietly studies the person, their body language, their energy, their hidden emotions. Sometimes, even the lies they never say out loud. That's why fake people make you uncomfortable. Not because you're judging them, because your brain keeps noticing the tiny contradictions they hope nobody sees. But there's a hidden cost to seeing so much. The more patterns you recognize, the harder it becomes to trust people. And that's exactly where the next chapter begins. Here's the biggest misunderstanding about deep thinkers. People assume you enjoy being alone, but that's rarely the truth. What you actually avoid is meaningless connection. Deep inside, you don't crave more conversations. You crave one conversation that actually means something. One person who doesn't force you to pretend. That's why crowded places can feel more lonely than an empty room, because loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about feeling unseen. And once your mind experiences real depth, it becomes almost impossible to go back to pretending. That's why your world becomes quieter, not smaller, just more honest. Something unexpected begins to happen. Your brain slowly loses interest in anything that feels predictable. The jokes stop being funny, the gossip becomes exhausting, and ordinary conversations start feeling like background noise. That's because your mind is no longer searching for entertainment. It's searching for understanding, for patterns, for hidden meanings that most people never even notice. The strange part is that the more answers you find, the more questions your mind creates. Curiosity stops being a habit. It quietly becomes an addiction. And that's why deep thinkers often feel disconnected, not because they think they're better than everyone else, but because their minds can no longer survive on the surface. They've learned to breathe only in depth. People often use these two words, deep thinker and overthinker, as if they mean the same thing. They don't. In psychology, the difference is massive. A deep thinker asks questions to understand reality. An overthinker asks the same questions because they're afraid of the answers. One searches for truth, the other searches for certainty. Deep thinking brings clarity. Overthinking creates confusion. That's why one leaves you feeling peaceful, while the other leaves you mentally exhausted. The process may look similar, the outcome never is. The smartest people don't think every second. They simply know which thoughts deserve their attention, and that ability changes everything. Look at the people around you. Now ask yourself, how many of them truly understand you? Not your name, not your job. You. Deep thinkers don't lose friends because they become cold. They lose people because they stop pretending. The moment you become authentic, some relationships quietly disappear. A small circle isn't always a warning. Sometimes it's evidence. Evidence that your peace has become more valuable than constant attention. And that's when life changes forever. You stop asking, how many people like me? And you start asking, who deserves my time? That single question separates emotional maturity from emotional dependence. Solitude is powerful, but only if you know how to use it. Leave your mind alone for too long, without purpose, And it won't create wisdom. It will create stories. Your brain hates unanswered questions. So when reality stays silent, it starts inventing answers. Not because they're true, because uncertainty feels unbearable. This is why some people become wiser in solitude, while others become prisoners of their own imagination. The room is the same. The mind is different. The smartest minds understand one simple rule: question your thoughts before you believe them, because sometimes the loudest voice in your life is the one inside your own head. Most people think power comes from speaking louder. Real power comes from knowing when silence says more than words ever could. When you stop reacting instantly, people start wondering what you're thinking, and uncertainty always captures more attention than certainty. Silence forces people to reveal themselves. The impatient interrupt. The insecure over-explain. The arrogant keep talking. Meanwhile, you keep learning. That's why deep thinkers don't rush to prove they're intelligent, because they understand the loudest person in the room is rarely the one in control. After everything you've heard, you might still believe that deep thinkers choose solitude because they don't like people, but that's not the truth. The truth is, they finally learned that protecting their peace is more important than pleasing everyone else. The world rewards the loudest voice, but history remembers the clearest mind. Silence isn't weakness, it's confidence that no longer needs permission. So if you've always felt different, if you've always felt misunderstood, maybe you were never the problem. Maybe you simply refused to become another voice, lost inside the noise. But understanding your mind is only the beginning. The real power comes when you learn to control it. If you want to discover how the world's most focused people eliminate distraction and build unstoppable discipline, click the video on your screen, because the next truth will change the way you think forever.